Welcome, travelers, to a site that defies both imagination and definition. You stand before the Great Wall of China, a structure so vast, it has become a legend, often called the Stone Dragon of the East. But what you see is not one wall, but a breathtaking tapestry of fortifications woven through dynasties, deserts, and mountains. Who built this colossal wonder, and why? The answer is not one emperor, but millions of soul soldiers, peasants, and prisoners over to millennia. Their story is one of survival, a desperate monumental effort to protect a civilization from the thundering hooves and relentless raids of the nomadic peoples of the Eurasian steppe. In the local tongue, it is Wenli Chanchan, the 10,000 li long wall, a name that is both a poetic expression and a wild understatement. A li is about half a kilometer, but the wall's true, collective length stretches over 21,000 kilometers in, earthen and stone scar marking the edge of an empire. This is not just a wall. Pause, it is the grandest testament to human ambition and fear ever constructed. Our story begins not with a single grand design, but in fragments, long before China was a unified empire. Picture the 7th century BC, a time of warring states where lords built high walls of their own, not against foreign invaders, but against each other. These were the first seeds of the Great Wall, a patchwork quilt of defenses made of stamped earth and gravel. Imagine the soundscape of the 5th century BC, the rhythmic thud of heavy wooden frames pounding earth, the grunts of laborers, the sharp commands of foremen. These early walls were built to withstand swords and spears, a simple but effective technology that the Chinese had already mastered. It was a brutal foundational craft that would soon be put to an unimaginable test. Then, in 221 BC, one man forged these warring states into a single, gleaming empire. Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, was a figure of immense power and paranoia. He ordered the destruction of the walls that divided his new empire, for he would tolerate no internal barriers. But as he looked north, he saw a new, greater threat, the Jiangnu horsemen, specters of the steppe. The emperor commanded his people to connect the remaining northern fortifications into a single, unified line of defense. His vision was born: wall to seal the civilized world from the wildlands beyond. The guiding principle was build and move on, a restless, pragmatic philosophy. This was not a permanently fixed border, but a fluid line of defense, a tide of stone and earth that ebbed and flowed with the dynasty's power. They built with what they could find, hauling stone in the mountains and ramming earth on the plains, a testament to their resourcefulness. Tragically, few written records and even fewer sections of these ancient Qin walls survive today. Centuries of wind and rain have eroded them back into the dust from which they were raised. We are left with only whispers and legends of this first Great Wall, a ghost of its former self. Following the Qin, successive dynasties like the Han and the Sui would pour fortunes and lives into this endless project. They repaired, rebuilt, and expanded the wall, each generation adding its own chapter to the stone saga. It was a costly, bloody inheritance passed down through the ages. Yet, there were lulls in this epic construction, moments when the dragon slept. The great Tang and Song dynasties, confident in their diplomatic and military might, undertook no significant work on the wall. They looked outwards, embracing the Silk Road and the exchange of culture, believing walls were a sign of weakness, not strength. But the steppe was patient, and new powers would arise. The Liao, the Jin, the Western Xia dynasties founded by the very peoples the wall was meant to keep outbuilt their own defensive walls. The frontier was a living, breathing entity, and the act of wall building had become ingrained in the political DNA of northern China. Everything changed with the Ming Dynasty, starting in 1368. After a humiliating defeat by the Mongols, the Ming emperors turned inward, adopting a new, defensive grand strategy. It was under the Ming that the Great Wall as we know it today truly took shape, becoming stronger, more elaborate, and more formidable than ever before. Unlike their predecessors who used rammed earth, the Ming builders turned to kill-fired bricks and massive blocks of stone. This was a technological and logistical leap, creating a fortification that could withstand not just arrows, but the dawning threat of cannon fire. The wall was evolving from a barrier into a complex military weapon system. Look up at the towers that punctuate the wall like sentinels. The Ming constructed an estimated 25,000 of these watchtowers, each a miniature fortress in its own right. They served as barracks, armories, and most crucially as a high-speed communication network, using smoke by day and fire by night to send signals across hundreds of miles in mere hours. This was more than just a wall. It was a transportation corridor snaking through impassable terrain. Soldiers and supplies could move swiftly along its wide paved top, a highway on the roof of the world. It was also a line of control, a place to levy taxes on Silk Road caravans and manage who entered and left the Middle Kingdom. The sections you walk on today, especially near Beijing, are the masterpieces of the Ming era. Under the watch of legendary generals like Qin, older earthen walls were faced with brilliant brickwork, and new sophisticated watchtowers were engineered. This was the dynasty's ultimate statement of power and permanence. To the east, the Ming even constructed a Liaodong wall to protect their agricultural heartland. Though simpler, often just an earth dike with moats, it shows the sheer scale of their defensive obsession. They sought to enclose their entire civilization, to draw a final, unambiguous line between themselves and the outside world. The sections you walk on today, especially near Beijing, are the masterpieces of the Ming era. Under the watch of legendary generals like Qin, older earthen walls were faced with brilliant brickwork, and new sophisticated watchtowers were engineered. This was the dynasty's ultimate statement of power and permanence. And here lies the great, tragic twist in our story. The Ming Dynasty's ultimate defense, this marvel of engineering, would not be breached by an overwhelming force from the outside. Its fall would come from a decision made on the inside, proving that the strongest walls are useless if the gatekeeper opens the door. The year is 1644. A new power, the Manchus, has risen to the northeast, pressing relentlessly against the wall. But the Ming's most immediate problem is internal, as a massive peasant rebellion has captured the capital, Beijing.
The Ming army, led by General Wu Sangui, stands guard at the heavily fortified Shanhai Pass, the first pass under heaven, where the wall meets the sea. It is the most critical choke point, the lock on the door to China. Behind him, his emperor is dead and his capital is in the hands of rebels. Faced with an impossible choice, General Wu makes a fateful alliance. He invites the Manchu army, his sworn enemies, to pass through the gates, hoping to use them to crush the rebellion and restore the Ming. On May 25, 1644, the gates of Shanhai Pass were opened not by force, but by invitation.
The Manchus poured through the pass, a torrent of warriors unleashed upon the Chinese heartland. They swiftly crushed the rebels in Beijing, but they did not stop there. Instead of restoring the Ming, they seized the dragon throne for themselves, establishing the Qin Dynasty that would rule China for the next 250 years. In that single dramatic moment, the Great Wall's primary purpose vanished forever. An empire had fallen not because its wall was weak, but because of human turmoil, ambition, and betrayal. The greatest fortification in history had been undone. By a key turning in a lock, under the new Qing Dynasty, China's borders expanded dramatically, absorbing Mongolia and other northern territories. The Great Wall, once the nation's northern frontier, now found itself deep inside the empire. Its military significance evaporated overnight. Work on the wall for defense was discontinued. It was no longer a shield, but a relic, a sleeping giant left to the elements. Sections began to crumble, watchtowers became shelters for shepherds, and its stone was pillaged by local farmers to build homes and roads. The Qing did build their own version of a barrier, the Willow Palisade, to control Han Chinese migration into their Manchu homeland. But this was a faint echo of the Great Wall's might, more of a symbolic fence than a true military fortification. The age of epic wall building was over. For centuries, the wall slumbered, slowly being reclaimed by nature. It became a subject for poets and artists, a romantic ruin symbolizing the grandeur and folly of past empires. It was a silent witness to the changing tides of history. It wasn't until the 20th century that the wall was reborn, this time not as a military defense, but as a national symbol. It became an icon of China's endurance and long history, a source of immense pride. The cry to love our China, restore our Great Wall, echoed across the nation. Today, it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the new 7 wonders of the world. The sections that have been meticulously restored allow us to experience a sliver of its former glory. Brick and stone is saturated with the sweat and sacrifice of those who built it. As you walk its length, feel the worn smoothness of the stones under your feet. Imagine the watchman peering into the misty distance for any sign of dust on the horizon. Hear the phantom echoes of marching soldiers and the neighing of Mongol ponies in the wind. This is no longer a barrier that divides. Today, the Great Wall is a bridge that connects people from all over the world. It invites us to contemplate the sheer scale of human achievement and the incredible stories etched into its structure. From the old dragon's head it lay along to where it meets the sea, to the lonely, unrestored wild walls that snake over desolate peaks, the wall offers countless faces. Each section tells a different part of the same epic tale. It is a journey through landscape, but also a journey through time itself. The Great Wall challenges our perception of time and space. It reminds us that history is not just something we read in books, but something physical we can touch, walk upon, and feel in our very bones. It is a living museum, open to the sky. Notice the ingenious ways it follows the contours of the land, clinging to the highest ridges. This wasn't just for a better vantage point. It was a psychological weapon, a formidable dragon that seemed to be a natural, insurmountable part of the landscape itself. The story of the wall is a human story. It is a narrative of conflict and defense, of isolation and connection, of monumental ambition and inevitable decay. It speaks to the universal desire to create order in a chaotic world. Let the sheer scale of it all sink in. Think of the millions of hands that laid these bricks, the countless lives spent in its shadow, and the dynasties that rose and fell beneath its watchful gaze. You are not just visiting a place, you are bearing witness to a legend. So take a deep breath of the mountain air and look out across the rolling hills that stretch to the horizon. You are standing on one of the most impressive architectural feats in the history of humankind. It is a testament to what we are capable of, for better and for worse. The Great Wall of China is more than stone and earth. It is a story etched into the very mountains. Its purpose may have changed, but its power to inspire awe has not diminished. Thank you for walking in the footsteps of emperors and soldiers, and for becoming a part of its continuing story.